might not, but it's the idea that every action makes a difference to the well-being of our world. So Take 3 for the Seed are leading a movement of people who are connected to the planet to remove plastic pollution from the environment. So come along with us, and Madeline will take us through how we can make a difference. Thanks, Maddie.
Hi, thank you for that introduction. Really excited to be here today. I have a little presentation for you all to touch on those subjects that Katie mentioned. So before I dive in, I thought I might introduce myself. So my name's Madeline Bell. I'm the Communications Manager at Take 3. I've been with the organisation for about 3 years, and I started out as a volunteer. I literally got my volunteer opportunity in the surf. And met one of the co-founders, and it was just the perfect fit. And I think that that's the beautiful thing about this organisation, is that the people here are true ocean lovers. So, you know, we've just put our brains together and figured out this incredible way to help our oceans. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen and talk you through plastic pollution and how you can live sustainably in a polluted world. Okay. Bear with me. Sorry guys, I am just trying to figure out how to get onto this. Okay. Here we go. My apologies. We are on. All right. So, as I mentioned, how you can be part of the solution and live sustainably on a polluted planet. Before I dive in, I just wanted to do an acknowledgement of country. So Take 3 acknowledges that we operate and function on the lands of the Dark and Young people. Our office here, I'm in our office, that's our beautiful mural there, is on Dark and Young land, and we'd like to pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Take 3 acknowledges the traditional owners of country here and throughout Australia and the world. For those listening from overseas, and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. So it's important to know that wherever we are, we're connected to the sea. So whether you live on the coastline, whether you live in a big city, whether you live in a tiny town in the middle of Australia or in the middle of your country, you are connected to the ocean. The way that the ocean and the land depend on one another is an intrinsic connection that scientists have been studying for years, and we're still learning more and more about it. But if there's one thing that you can take away from this already, and hitting that type right now, is that you are connected to the sea wherever you are. So the ocean provides us with the oxygen that we breathe and the climate that sustains us. Every second breath you take is generated by the ocean. The oceanic currents that take the heat from the equator, they disperse that heat all around the planet. And that's how we have a very stable and livable climate. We are in the sweet spot. And that's all thanks to our oceans. Despite this, human race has unfortunately gotten to the habit of treating nature with disrespect. As you can see in this photo here by Nick Pumphrey, one of our amazing ambassadors, these are plastics floating in the ocean right alongside the fish. So ocean pollution is a massive, massive problem. You may be aware of it, you may be learning about it right now for the first time. But to put it into perspective for you, every minute a garbage truck of plastic and waste enters our oceans. And over time, This equates to about 8 million tonnes every single year. Now, this image here was taken a few years ago from the canals in Los Angeles. It's often that after heavy rain events, stormwater, as it comes onto the ground and washes down through the waterways, it picks up everything that's on the surface. And traditionally, that would have been organic matter, so things like leaves and sticks, rocks, things like that, sediment, soil. But unfortunately, since the dawn of plastic, it's often that we see images like this. I'm sure many of you have walked past a drain and seen it clogged with rubbish and plastic debris after a heavy rain event. And essentially, that's one of the things we're trying to curb. So ocean pollution, it's said that there's about 300 million tonnes of pollution in the ocean, or it's almost incomprehensible, but 125 trillion pieces of plastic in our oceans right now. And 80% of this marine pollution comes from land-based sources. So what that means is that, like I said before, the pollution and things that is coming off through stormwater drains and running down into the ocean, yes, some of it's captured by filtration systems and things, but most of the time it slips through. So 80% of this pollution is coming from the land, and I'm sure you can see in this video some recognizable objects here, like plastic bags that you might put your food or fruit and veg in at the supermarket, some chip packets and things like that. And this video was shot in Indonesia. So the other 20% of marine pollution comes from the ocean, or rather is polluted while on the ocean. So this is most commonly from things like fishing, commercial fishing, or recreational fishing as well. As you can see here, this turtle is struggling hard in this ghost net. So a ghost net is any net used by a fisherman or commercial fishers that is either damaged, so they no longer need it, it's tangled and they can't untangle it, or it falls off the boat, lost at sea. So when those nets are damaged or entangled, it's very, very common for fishermen to simply cut the lines because it's a lot easier for them rather than hauling in a massive water-soaked net. So unfortunately, these nets drift through these ocean currents and they are an absolute trap for marine life. Specifically turtles, dolphins, whales, all of these marine animals have fins, and unfortunately they don't work the way our arms do, and they can't understand what they're caught in. So essentially they become entangled, they drown or they starve because they can't fish, they can't hunt. So essentially, thankfully in this video, this one's being released. As you can see, there's actually a washing basket there as well that's being caught. So ghost nets are another very big source of pollution in the ocean. So that said, it can get very doom and gloom when we talk about ocean pollution because of the weight of the problem. But Take 3 is an Australian charity that was founded on the central coast of New South Wales 10 years ago. And has been working over these 10 years to develop a global movement of people who are connected to the planet, who understand their role here on this planet. And yes, it's to, have wonderful lives and have wonderful careers and travel and have families for some, but it's also to connect to the planet that we live on, connect to the place that gives us life. So Take 3 champions a very, very simple message to help you to do your part, to be part of the solution. And that message is simple. It's to take 3 pieces of rubbish with you when you leave the beach, waterway, or anywhere, and know that you've made a difference. And it really is that simple. That simple call to action has removed over 30 million pieces of rubbish from the environment. It's roughly 10 million pieces removed every single year, thanks to our global community. So we have about 335,000 members of our global community from 129 countries around the world. And our Take 3 for the Sea hashtag, which is the most known part of our online campaign, has been tagged 135,000 times. So our strategy, how we do it. So Take 3 strategy is built on the 3 pillars to take action. So inspire people to participate in simple actions, which is very clearly our simple call to action, Take 3 for the Sea. It's to be hands-on, so deliver hands-on activities to mobilize our supporters. It's to do research, so work with research institutions to understand the most up-to-date science on the problems and figure out solutions. On research, we actually worked with University of Newcastle last year, who produced a paper that you might have heard of. It found that the average human being consumes 2,000 pieces of plastic every single week. And the size of these plastics is the equivalent to 1 credit card a week that we are ingesting through the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat. And that can be quite alarming, but essentially it's the gravity of the situation. So the first of our E pillars is education. So we deliver education that inspires participation. And the final E is ecosystem. So to continually adapt and influence our ecosystem. So some of our achievements, so Take 3 delivers education that inspires participation in schools, surf clubs, businesses and communities around Australia. We also deliver campaigns all around the world, as I mentioned. So to date, we have delivered education to 375,000 students from 450 schools in Australia, 40 surf life-saving clubs, and we've had about 100,000 attendees at our cleanups and events around Australia. So it's safe to say that we have grown from a grassroots project here on the Central Coast 10 years ago, when 3 people converged about an issue that was very dear to them, to protect marine life, clean up our oceans. But we're proudly now a global movement, and we've been able to help disseminate information on policy, point people in the direction of petitions that can help to lobby their government at any level on how to make plastic pollution something that's more regulated. We recently launched our support for the 30 by 30 campaign. So a 30 by 30 campaign, or weareoneocean.org, is a campaign that we have partnered with that aims to protect 30% of the oceans by 2030. So at the moment, right now, there are only 3% of our oceans that are protected. So we all know what that means. By comparison, on land, it's about 14%. So just to do a little bit of a quick comparison, so the ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface, but only 3% is protected. Whereas the land covers 29% of the Earth's surface, but 14% of that is protected. So as we begin to understand more and more about how the ocean supports and drives all of our life and keeps us safe, we're starting to recognize that we really need to bring that balance back and you know, perhaps even increase protection of land as well. But essentially, it's imperative to keep a healthy planet. One thing I do want to note, so this is a young girl that was a photo taken in Southeast Asia. This problem, while some of us are very lucky to not see it as much, it is a global issue, and it was developed in the production lines of Western developed countries. So Take 3 recognises our role in this issue, and we deliver solutions that are really simple, and we recognise that we're all connected, and so we all have a role to play here. Whether we have immense amounts of pollutions on our beaches or not, we still have a part to play, and we can still make a difference. So, enough of the sad stuff. How you can be part of the solution. So this is a photo of one of our cleanup events. We partnered with a surf brand up in Noosa Queensland. Oh, my geography is terrible. It's either very north New South Wales or it's Queensland. Someone in the comments can help me on that one. But essentially, we ran a cleanup and we filled 35 sacks that weighed 200 kilograms of rubbish. We brought 80 members of the community together on a rainy thunderstorm day. So that was an amazing achievement. We run events like these all around Australia, and we're actually hoping to expand them into other parts of the world in the coming years, so stay tuned on those. But other than specific events, there are a number of ways that you can be involved. So the number one is to take 3 for the sea. So take 3 pieces of rubbish with you when you leave the beach, waterway, or anywhere, and know that you're truly making a difference. The next step of that is to take a photo like the one here and share it on social media, and don't forget to tag us so we can repost you. Essentially, when small things are done on a large scale by hundreds of thousands or millions or billions of people, that's when we start to see real change. Second thing you can do, which is rather than cleaning up the mess, it's more about turning off the tap, is to avoid single-use plastics. So what are single-use plastics? Some of you may already know these things, but just in case you're very new to this issue, the big 4 are what we refer to as the key single-use plastics that we need to avoid. So those are coffee cups, takeaway coffee cups, plastic water bottles, as you can see there's a bunch here in this photo that have found their way into the ocean. Straws and food containers, so takeaway food containers that we use once and throw away, and plastic bags, so the ones that thankfully in many parts of the world they've started banning, but we still have a way to go to ensure that the production and use of those is reduced. So the third thing you can do is reduce other plastics in your life. So there are so many amazing tricks and little swap outs that you can do in your day-to-day life that make a huge difference, because essentially this is a journey, and the world doesn't need a handful of people being, zero waste or perfectly, all of their rubbish in a year can fit into a single jar. What it needs is hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of people who recognize their role and understand that it's a really simple way to just make a few switches. So at home, things in the kitchen and the laundry, those kitchen and laundry are 2 hot spots for plastic that you can easily make some switches. So for example, for me, all of my dishwashing liquid, cleaning products, things like that, I get refilled at bulk stores. So I take my own containers and refill those, which thankfully is becoming more and more popular in Australia, access to stores like that. Personal care products, I use a shampoo bar and a conditioner bar. Sometimes I go all natural and, let the salt water do the work. But if that's not your style, if you'd prefer a more manicured look, there are so many incredible brands out there that offer their products plastic free. If the next phase of that plastic free model is looking at a circular economy, which takes creates products in plastic still, but these are products made from 100% recycled plastic and that are 100% recyclable. So essentially a circular economy is when that product stays in the loop. It's always circular and it's never being polluted. Food shopping, that's a really big one. Single-use plastic bags, ban the bag. I'm sure some of you might have heard of that campaign. Essentially, it's very, very simple. Try and bring your own bags. And if you get caught out, the amount of times I've carried, a few bits and bobs, broccoli and a bottle of milk home in my arms, it can be quite amusing, but it's worth it. Items on the run. So never go anywhere without my reusable water bottle. I keep one at work, I keep one at home, I keep one in my car, and it's really easy once you get into that habit. Essentially, it's all behavioural change and habit making and breaking in some instances. But if you can keep all of these types of... Oh, is my camera still on? What's happening?
Change to cancel the screen.
Oh,
Wait, actually,
Hello, Madeline. Thank you so much for taking us through that information about Take 3. I know there was some fantastic chat on there as well. And if we could, we would keep that going for a long time. As we said, it's really those small differences. And I think you showed some great examples at the end that make a huge difference. But now we've come to that time of the day. It is cocktail hour. So we've got 2 fantastic sessions to wrap up. The first one is really exciting. It's something that's emerged